Aloha and welcome everyone to Maui Nonprofit Notes, the weekly radio show where we talk story with Maui's nonprofit executive directors and staff to find out how they're working to support the needs within our community. Maui Nonprofit Notes is generously sponsored by Pacific Source. If you're building or remodeling a home, you've just got to check out the Pacific Source Cabinet and Appliance Showroom in the Waikapu Bayshard. I'm Susie Tiemann, Executive Director of Lokahi Pacific and President of the Maui Nonprofit Directors Association. And it's my pleasure to introduce Max Tornai. Hi, Max.
Hey, Susie. How are you?
Who is our co-host for today, and he's also the Executive Director of Mediation Services Maui.
That's right.
And you raced up here really quick. Thank you.
I did. I did. I just couldn't stay away from this radio show.
He loves it.
Yep. But each week during this hour, we share the experiences of how our nonprofit agencies are working to benefit our island home, with stories of how these agencies are changing lives, changing communities, and creating miracles of hope for those in need. And today we have two guests. We have Lindsay Capone from the Alzheimer's Association, and we have Robert Colasano. Did I say that right?
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay, good. From the Mental Health of America, the Mental Health Association of America of Hawaii, Maui chapter?
Maui County branch.
Maui County branch.
Wow, what a long, how do you get that on a card?
We abbreviate it.
There you go.
But today we're starting with Lindsay. Welcome, Lindsay. You're brand new to the agency, or?
About 8 months in. Yeah.
8 months in?
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, welcome.
That's starting out.
Yes.
8 months is still pretty new territory, and
Absolutely.
It's the first time on the show, right?
First time on the show, yep, absolutely.
So we get to ask her anything we want.
Oh, goodness.
Excellent.
But I think we're going to start off. She's got one big event coming up in, 10 days?
10 days,
A week
yes.
from
Counting
Saturday.
down the days. It's a great event. Everybody in the Maui community is invited to attend. It's called the Walk to End Alzheimer's. It is being held on Saturday, October the 13th at the Queen Kahumanu Center. It's a walk to honor those and advocate and bring awareness to those living with Alzheimer's or caregiving for somebody that has Alzheimer's. And the walk registration and check-in begins at 6:30 that morning, and the walk will kick off around 7 o'clock. And of course, refreshments will be served afterwards, as well as we'll have some great prize drawings after for everybody to get involved in and have opportunities to win some wonderful prizes.
Now, is this one of those where they walk around a couple of times, or is it?
Yeah, it's about a 3-mile walk in and around the mall.
Okay.
Yep, it's a great morning jaunt, a wonderful way to kick off your Saturday for a great cause and bring awareness and advocate for such a devastating disease.
Are the stores open that early?
No,
I don't even know.
This is before the stores open. So unfortunately, you can window shop, but you can't go in while you're on the route. So
Okay. I was going to say you could get a little shopping on your course, but I suppose not. And there are, you're located on Maui. There's a version on each of the Hawaiian Islands, right?
Correct, yes. Here in Maui, I am located in Wailuku. I have an office on Ho'okahi Street. It's in the Wailuku industrial area. And on each island, they also have a program coordinator as well. We all provide free support services, counseling, education, and workshops to families, caregivers, and people that are directly affected by Alzheimer's disease.
Okay, if we can, let's go back to the walk for just a minute.
Yes, ma'am.
There's no registration fee, right?
Correct. There is no registration fee. There's no cost to come and just walk. We do, if you do want a event T-shirt, we do ask a minimum funds raised or donation. But to come and walk and participate and enjoy the company, enjoy the refreshments and so forth, there's no cost, no registration fee.
That's great.
Isn't that terrific?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's
Saturday, October the 13th.
that's not okay. So that's next Saturday.
Yep, next Saturday, week from this Saturday, 10 days from today.
10 days from today, 7 a.m.
What's the largest turnout? What?
The largest turnout, well, so far we've had one walk. Each island has their own walk, and we recently just had our Oahu walk, and they had over 600 participants.
Wow.
So we're hoping that we get upwards of 250 here on Maui. It's a little bit smaller, but
Yeah.
it's important that everybody comes out, and the more the merrier.
Absolutely.
So can you bring, like, if you've got a small one, you can bring the stroller and
Absolutely.
take them
This
along?
walk is for all ages, all abilities. We want everybody to come out and support those living with Alzheimer's or caregiving for.
Gotcha. And there's more and more people with Alzheimer's every day.
Yeah, there's currently over 5 million people in the United States living with Alzheimer's. Here in Maui, there's close to 3,000 that have been diagnosed in Maui County with Alzheimer's disease. And of course, that number is just expected to increase as the years approach.
So officially diagnosed, would you have a guess at how many are undiagnosed but are there or getting there?
I don't have a guesstimate, but oftentimes people have confusion about, is this just a natural part of aging, becoming senile and so forth. But the truth is, a natural part of aging and memory loss is very much different than Alzheimer's disease. It is a progressive disease, and there is a difference between just expecting some memory loss and having some symptoms versus Alzheimer's disease.
So I know at one time I heard people say, well, I'm always misplacing my keys. I don't know where they are. That's typical. That's the average person.
Yeah, I'm doing that now.
Uh-oh.
I know.
Yeah.
There are some differences. When you're aging, sometimes you will become a little bit forgetful, but typically you have the logical reasoning to retrace your steps and remember, when I first came into the house, I put the bags down on the countertop and I left my keys there. But with Alzheimer's, you don't have that short-term memory and you don't have the logical reasoning. It starts to decline, so you can't retrace your steps. You have a harder time. So there's a big difference.
Big difference there, yeah.
Yeah, so what are some other common symptoms with Alzheimer's? I mean, I think your organization has done a great job getting awareness out in general, and I think Alzheimer's is a disease that the country as a whole, is getting more and more familiar with. But for people that don't know,
Yeah, some typical symptoms are, of course, short-term memory loss, having difficulty with finding words, communicating, sometimes social inactivity, inclusion. People start to withdraw because they're having a more difficult time following conversation or engaging in the conversation. So usually those are the first signs that people will start to notice when it comes to Alzheimer's.
Is there a genetic factor in Alzheimer's?
There are a lot of risk factors. There's no one specific thing that says you are going to have Alzheimer's disease. And, there is no cure as well. There are plenty of treatments, so people can live a quality life if they get diagnosed early enough and go ahead and look into some of these treatments and medications. But going back to the risk factors, genetics can be one. If you do have a grandparent, a father, an aunt, or an uncle that has Alzheimer's disease in your family, the chances of you developing Alzheimer's later in life are increased. It's not deterministic, though. Genetics aren't necessarily deterministic. They just increase your chances of developing Alzheimer's disease.
So there's no way that somebody, say they've had that, where an aunt and maybe their mom or grandmother, whatever, has had Alzheimer's and died as a result of the complications. But is there some way, like in your early 60s, you can go and get tested for something to see if it's there?
There is genetic testing, and what they look for is a gene called APOE4. And if you do have this gene, again, it's not deterministic. It just increases if they do the testing on you and it shows that you have this gene or some sort of mutation on this gene. It just simply tells you are at risk and you have a higher chance of developing Alzheimer's, but it doesn't mean you 110% will develop it.
Right. So if you are at risk, then you can take some preventative steps.
Some preventative steps are just healthy living, maintaining your brain, staying active, positive mental stimulation, healthy diet, and so forth.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I think that, we hear of some high-profile people like President Reagan, Margaret Thatcher from England, and you think, how can people like that who are so vital and so, how does it hit them?
Right.
Yeah.
It's a devastating disease. It really is.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough on all families. And, that's what the Alzheimer's Association is here for, because we don't have a cure yet, but we are here to support, help families cope, give them different tips and tactics on how to deal with this, kind of educate them on the stages of the disease, provide them with resources and referrals in the community that can help get care in the home and give them that respite that they need as a caregiver.
Right, and there is some comfort note in the fact that you're not alone. There are other people that are experiencing this, can give you their stories and
Absolutely.
and help.
Absolutely. Along those lines, we do offer a support group. Right now I have one support group for Alzheimer's specific caregivers, as well as individuals who have early stage Alzheimer's, every third Thursday at Halamakua Wailuku at 5:15. And, again, it's important to know that you aren't alone and that you can come out to these support groups and just share your stories, vent, talk, laugh, cry. It's just an opportunity for everybody to realize I'm not going crazy. Other people are dealing with these things too.
Right.
Yeah.
And that it is genuinely difficult to care for somebody that's going through that, let alone going through that yourself.
Right. Absolutely.
I guess, the thing to me, the hardest thing, like I've known some people who've gotten it. You don't die from Alzheimer's, do you?
It's the 6th leading cause of death. It is. What happens is in the late stages of Alzheimer's is people start to lose the ability to do things for themselves. They kind of get primarily bedbound. They lose ability to swallow. So therefore, they can't take in any nutrients or calories or anything to fight off any other illnesses. And so usually that's kind of what the end result is to Alzheimer's.
Interesting.
The 6th leading cause of, so that's a direct cause of death, not like, some diseases, AIDS, for example, you'll die of pneumonia, right? So something, another disease that Alzheimer's would be a contributing factor to. You're saying Alzheimer's is a direct cause of death sometimes.
But of course, there are other contributing factors like
Sure.
pneumonia and stuff like that, or the common cold when you're an elderly and you're in your late stage Alzheimer's and you can't take antibiotics, you have the inability to swallow and so forth. So, there are other factors that add into the equation.
When do most people start noticing that they're experiencing some of these symptoms? Is it 50s? Is it 70s?
Yeah, it's called late onset Alzheimer's. Is a typical Alzheimer's that people are diagnosed with, and it starts around the age of 65.
Okay.
At least 1 in 8 people at the age of 65 have symptoms or are already diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And then
1 in 8?
1 in 8.
Ouch.
And then as,
Yikes.
your age increases, the chances of you developing Alzheimer's also increase. And
Sure.
It's shown that at least half of the population, the age of 85 or older, are living with Alzheimer's disease.
Half the population.
Half the population.
Wow.
And there is something called early onset Alzheimer's, and that's when symptoms start to show in as early as the age of 30. Yes.
Uh-oh.
It's scary, yeah.
That's unreal. Now, what kind of numbers are we looking at for early onset?
Early onset, it's very low percentage. Maybe 5% of cases, 5% of Alzheimer's cases are early onset.
Okay.
But it's clearly prevalent enough, not early onset, just Alzheimer's in general, it's clearly prevalent enough where, your type of association is really important, and getting, people talking about it, getting the awareness out there, talking about what treatments there are, I think you're doing some great work. So
let's hold that thought for just a minute. We're going to listen to Paul talk about Pacific Source.
Aloha from Pacific Source, and thank you for your support over the years. Pacific Source has offered more of what builders and homeowners value most in building materials and cabinet design. We've done this by offering superior customer service and products, as well as by designing kitchens and baths that are intelligent and elegant while staying true to your vision and budget. Visit our showroom in Waikapu in Central Maui, where we display a variety of cabinets as well as top-name appliances like Sub-Zero, Wolf, Viking, KitchenAid, and more. We display countertops, tile and wood flooring, and several brands of windows and doors, including Fleetwood multi-slides and La Cantina folding doors. Come in and talk to our designers about making your dreams become a reality. From concept to completion, we really believe our attention to detail and superior service are what sets us apart. Let us show you what we mean. We are a Pacific Source at 515 East Oahe Way in the Consolidated Base Yard in Waikapu, just off Waiko Road. Call us at 986-0380. That's 986-0380, or look us up online at packsource.com.
And we are back, and we're talking with Lindsay Capone, the program coordinator for Alzheimer's Association here on Maui. We started out talking about the Alzheimer's Walk to end Alzheimer's. I like that. I like that. I'm just kind of sitting here thinking about the numbers because that's kind of my area, and I'm just astounded at how many people could potentially have this disease.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is scary, but there is hope. There's lots of great research underway right now to try to find a cure. As I mentioned before, currently there is no cure, but there are treatments available, and it's hopeful because it allows for people to live quite a few years with a quality and well-being. So
the thing I think about Alzheimer's, it's the person who has it doesn't understand what's going on.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yeah,
to some extent.
Yeah, usually as the disease progresses, it becomes harder and harder for them to logically understand what's going on in their brain and what's going on with them,
right.
and what the reality.
So the burden falls on the family or the caregivers or the whatevers, and I could see where we talk about caregivers burnout.
Right.
I would think that if you had a wife or a husband or a daughter or a grandmother, and you were the caregiver, I mean, that's got to be hard because that's not just role reversal.
Right.
Yeah.
That's way beyond that.
Yeah, it's a hard thing for families to deal with, and again, that's why we are here, the Alzheimer's Association. We provide support services, an opportunity for people to vent, an opportunity for them to learn more about the disease and what to expect, and I can be reached in Wailuku, and my number is 242-8636, and I'm always available for caregivers or family members needing some help or needing some support. And if caregivers have an issue and something's going on at 11 o'clock at night and they can't wait for me to open up the office the next morning, we do have a 24/7 staffed hotline.
Oh, great.
And we have social workers and counselors on that line that know how to deal with Alzheimer's, and that number is 1-800-272-3900. Again, for anybody dealing with Alzheimer's, if you find yourself at 11 o'clock midnight and something's going on, you're dealing with some difficult behaviors, feel free to call 1-800-272-3900, and we can get you some help and support over the phone.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
What now? You said you've been in the job for 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
What brought you to Alzheimer's?
About 10 or 11 years ago, when I was 17, my grandfather was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and it was difficult watching my family try to figure out what's going on with this disease. How do we handle it?
Mm-hmm.
And since then, I've kind of just jumped right into the human service field and went on to get my master's in gerontology and focused a lot on dementia and Alzheimer's care, and that's how I ended up here. It was kind of a personal passion and journey. Yeah.
Were you working with the organization before you got this position, or?
I was working with an organization here on Maui. I was working with Halemakua,
nice.
the Wailuku facility up the road, and I was doing therapeutic and activity programming for the residents there. Yeah, and prior to that, I was on the mainland, and I was doing dementia care unit consulting and helping educate the staff in assisted living facility environments on how to deal with difficult behaviors or how to communicate with their residents that have dementia or Alzheimer's.
Okay, so you really have a lot of experience in this realm, sounds like.
That's got to be a really hard thing to handle in a facility like Halemakua. If somebody comes, can they stay there with?
Yeah, absolutely. All the nurses, the CNAs, the staff there are very well equipped and educated on how to deal with dementia, Alzheimer's, and other related forms of memory loss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's terrific because I there's some things I guess that you can have that you need to go find another place.
Right. They have the 24/7 care there, and people always checking in, and sometimes that can be tough for a family, or a daughter that's caregiving, easy burnout, and you got to take care of yourself to be able to provide and caregive for somebody else. So sometimes it gets to that point where you just need to take a step back and realize they need 24/7 nursing care, and I can't provide that for them anymore.
Yeah.
Now, the caregiver workshop that you talked about that you have on the third Tuesday of
Thursday.
Thursday of each. I can't read my writing. The third Thursday of each month. Is that where they can talk story about what's happening and share situations?
Yep, anybody in the community. It's not just for families of Halamakua. It's for anybody in the community. I'm just fortunate enough that Halamakua has a big enough place for me to host it there, so I can have a group of people, and it's an opportunity for people to come in, talk story. Sometimes people just don't even want to talk about Alzheimer's. They just want to get away and laugh and, be around other people. And sometimes we'll discuss certain topics that they want to get more educated on, or sometimes, we just sit and vent. Yeah. So wherever people want to go with it, that's what we're here for. And we're happy to provide what kind of environment they need.
Definitely.
And they can call you at 242-8636 and ask you more about
Absolutely.
this workshop.
And for the walk on the 10th,
13th.
I'm sorry, the 13th.
10 days from now.
10 days from now. Jeez,
Lots of numbers, getting you guys confused.
We're all over the place. But on next Saturday, not this upcoming Saturday, they don't have to register. They can just show up. Should they call your office first?
If they want to get more information or pre-register ahead of time just to have their name on the list, they can call the office 242-8636 or just show up the morning of October 13th at 6:30, and we'll get you signed up and ready to walk.
Now you can form a team.
Yes, you can absolutely form a team. There's no minimum or maximum requirement. You can form a team of however many people you want, of all ages, all abilities.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And are there any hopeful treatments that are coming up on the horizon? Stem cells, I know it's kind of controversial, but anything that you know of that's new?
They are currently underway. They've been a few weeks into research, breaking down the genes and the DNA sequencing to see exactly what genes, what DNA sequences are directly affected by Alzheimer's, if there's any mutations on specific ones, and if any medications are directly helping those. So there is lots of research. Always check out our website at www.alz.org to get updated information and updated research.
That's great.
Points. Yeah.
Now, the walks, do they all take place pretty much the same time around the country?
Usually around September, October. It's the big walk months for all of the chapters. So, Hawaii here, we just recently had our Oahu one this upcoming weekend. I think our Kauai chapter is going to have theirs, and then October 13th is Maui's, and mainland chapters have been having and will continue to have over the next couple weeks.
Are they all done in covered shopping centers?
No, they're all over the place.
They have to be in covered shopping centers.
And again, really big mahalos to the Queen Kahumanu Center for providing us the space and the opportunity. They set up the whole, all the tables, the chairs, the sound system. So we're really fortunate to have those guys involved, and so thankful.
Yeah.
I just thought you could go all year round if you could find that covered shopping center on the main. What would be fun? I wonder if they do any in the Walk of the America Mall of America. That'd be a heck of a long walk, wouldn't it?
I can contact my counterparts over there, see how they do it. Or in Vegas, if they do it on the Strip. There's all great places for this walk.
Yeah. I survived the walk to end Alzheimer's at the Mall of America. I can see the sale of T-shirts on that one. Anyway, thank you, Lindsay, for joining us today. This is really, it's devastating, and yet it's exciting to know that there are things happening.
Right.
And you never know what tomorrow's going to bring.
Exactly.
Right. And there's help out there, and you're not alone. Do you want to give your contact information one more time?
Okay. The Maui County Alzheimer's Association is located in Wailuku. You can stop by the office or give me a call at 242-8636. We can chat over the phone or set up an appointment for you to come in and talk more.
And the hotline, in case there's something going on during those late night hours or on the weekends, and you need an answer, you can call 1-800-272-3900.
Excellent.
Lindsay, thank you so much for the great work you're doing, and
Thank you.
good luck on the walk to end Alzheimer's.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
It's our pleasure. Thank you. And we're going to switch gears a little bit here and talk to who you got next.
We
Max?
got Robert Colasano from, let me see, this is kind of a mouthful, the Mental Health America of Hawaii Maui chapter.
That's right.
Welcome to the radio show. You're new too, or at least to the radio show, yeah?
First time on the radio show.
That's great.
And a lot of people might know Mental Health America. It used to be called the Mental Health Association all across the United States. That name was kind of more well known, but the national organization changed it to Mental Health America a few years ago.
Interesting. Okay, so now this is called the Maui County branch. So is that the way it is in all the states? You've got a county branch?
Yeah, Hawaii, the Hawaii Mental Health America organization is an affiliate of Mental Health America nationally. And we have an office in Oahu, and the only other outer island office is here on Maui. And we've been here 40 years on the island of Maui,
Wow.
Mental Health America.
Wow. Now, mental health is another issue that a lot of times we kind of brush off and don't think a whole lot about because it's been around so long and it's been talked and re-talked and talked about.
It's kind of more evident now, too, the past 20 years or so, because people used to be put in institutions.
Right.
And back in the Reagan years, all these folks were let out of institutions, and now they're in community group homes or just wandering around the community. And so mentally ill people are a little bit more in evidence now today. And I should say because of state cutbacks, they're even more in evidence because of the lack of services.
So now, mental health takes in, like, as I was reading some of the things on your website, like youth suicides.
Yeah.
Do you do a lot of work with the youth?
We do a lot of work with suicide in general. There was a study that just came out this past week that suicides have surpassed automobile accidents in number of deaths. There's more suicides per year than there are automobile accidents now in the U.S.
And that's across all ages.
Yeah.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh.
That's kind of a staggering figure.
It's staggering. And right here at home on Maui, I've been here on Maui about 8 years and working about 7 years in mental health and substance abuse, that type of thing. And I know of 5 people that have committed suicide just here on Maui.
This year?
Yeah, not this year. But
Okay, over those 8 years.
As we've had cutbacks in services, more and more people become at risk. So suicide is it's a major issue in the Hawaiian Islands. There's 3 people have committed suicide here in Maui within the past about 2.5 months.
Wow.
And those are the ones we know of.
Right.
Wow.
And we had somebody on one time who was talking about the numbers of suicides that are out there on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And it's just unbelievable. Well, I mean, if it's surpassing the car accident victims, it's got to be happening on a regular,
Maybe now
one
would
every
be
so often.
would be a good time for me to give out an 800 number.
There you go.
Absolutely.
For people, anyone that's in distress. This is a 24/7 800 number that anyone can call and to talk to someone to get a sympathetic ear. It's 1-800-273-TALK. It's simply 1-800-273-TALK, which works out to 8255. So it's 273-8255 is the number you want to call 24/7 if you're in distress and you need to talk to somebody.
24-hour crisis support, so
Specifically for suicide.
specifically for suicide.
Yeah, I mean that's the focus of that particular helpline. we have a helpline also here in Hawaii in terms of getting services. Getting services. And people that are struggling with these issues, family members of people struggling with these issues, can call 1-800-753-6879. 1-800-753-6879. And that's if you want to get into some agency to get some help. But it's often difficult to get services, and that's where Mental Health America comes into play. That's primarily my job, is when people are having difficulty accessing services, they can contact my office, and I can be an advocate.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was going to say. You can advocate for that family or for that individual with agencies that might provide direct help. Yeah,
and I'm in a good position to do that myself personally, because I've worked at Aloha House here in the substance abuse realm, and in the mental health realm. I worked with Care Hawaii, who used to be on the island, but because of the state cutbacks, they're no longer here. And I was part of what they call the ACT team. It was a specific team of people that took care of the most chronically ill, mentally ill people on the island, and we would care for those people just right where they were, if they were living on the streets or where they were. And also I've worked with people that are incarcerated, because the mentally ill oftentimes end up in jail.
Yeah.
And substance abusing people end up in jail. So I've worked at MCCC as well. So if somebody calls me, I have a lot of contacts in the community where I can be helpful.
Is there a telltale sign of mental illness in someone?
It's an interesting question. There's all different kinds of mental illness. You have
that's what I was going to ask.
Major depression. The three primary ones are major depression, schizophrenia, and bipolar illness. That's what the state serves. If somebody has major depression, of course, major depression, you can't get out of bed. Some people just simply, don't have the energy to get out of bed. Schizophrenia, one of the telltale signs are when somebody hears voices. And bipolar is when you have a range of really manic, hyper activity, and then you go down to deep depression. And then you go up to manic, hyper, which feels really good, and then you go down to depression. So those are some of the trademarks of those three primary.
So that last one is kind of like a dual personality.
No, dual. No, that's
doesn't come across that way.
No, it's same person, but it's just they're just majorly energized when they're in their manic phase.
Okay.
And when they're depressed, it's they're same person but depressed.
Most people are kind of even keeled.
Well,
they'll have a
not everybody.
Little up, little down,
not everybody. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, but it's
obvious.
And not only that, it is tears families apart because people are afraid of it. We were talking about Alzheimer's prior to this, and I think when you see an older person with Alzheimer's, your heart kind of goes out to them, and you feel concern for them initially. That's kind of the automatic response. When you see somebody that's mentally ill, you become afraid. People fear that because these people are so different, and that's where there's a stigma attached.
I gotcha.
To mental illness. So that's one of the things that we work with mental illness, is to help kind of reduce that stigma. And there is we do both mental illness and substance abuse, because both of those illnesses are often co-occurring. 50% of mentally ill folks abuse substances, and a lot of that is because they want to
Right.
self-medicate.
Gotcha.
You've heard that term.
Right,
You
right.
know,
Hold on to
yeah.
that thought. It's that time again
Okay.
for a break.
Aloha from Pacific Source, and thank you for your support over the years. Pacific Source has offered more of what builders and homeowners value most in building materials and cabinet design. We've done this by offering superior customer service and products, as well as by designing kitchens and baths that are intelligent and elegant while staying true to your vision and budget. Visit our showroom in Waikapu in Central Maui, where we display a variety of cabinets as well as top-name appliances like Sub-Zero, Wolf, Viking, KitchenAid, and more. We display countertops, tile and wood flooring, and several brands of windows and doors, including Fleetwood multi-slides and La Cantina folding doors. Come in and talk to our designers about making your dreams become a reality. From concept to completion, we really believe our attention to detail and superior service are what sets us apart. Let us show you what we mean. We are a Pacific Source at 515 East Oahe Way in the Consolidated Base Yard in Waikapu, just off Waiko Road. Call us at 986-0380. That's 986-0380, or look us up online at packsource.com.
And we are back. This is Maui Nonprofit Notes, the weekly show where we talk story with the executive directors and their staff of our nonprofit agencies to find out what they're doing to help the folks here on Maui and to keep Maui one of the best places to live. And we're talking right now with Robert Colasano, and he's with Mental Health America of Hawaii, Maui County branch. And we were into some pretty heavy stuff right before the break. So I think we needed that break a little bit. But I'm going to ask my typical question about genetics. Is there a piece of that in what's going on?
Yeah, if you have mental illness in your family, that predisposes you towards mental illness. If you have bipolar, you have to be careful. Very much the same with substance abuse. If your mom or dad is an alcoholic or a substance abuser, you're predisposed to that. And I would advise anybody that has substance abuse in their family, not to use substances at all, because you can trigger that predisposition by using it. And if you don't use substance, in terms of substance abuse, if you don't use substances, well, you're okay, because you're not.
Right.
How can you become an alcoholic if you don't drink?
Right. But if you do start, you don't know when it's taken hold.
That's
of
right.
You.
And the thing is, it's tricky because a substance abuser that's predisposed, alcohol and substances really feel good to that person initially. Initially, it feels really good because of your predisposition, and it works. If you're a shy person, you can become the life of the party.
Wow.
And people love that. They get courage.
Right.
But then as you become addicted to whatever the substance is, then you're no longer in control.
Yeah, well, ultimately, that substance is going to wear off. The effects of that substance are going to wear off, and then you're, a lot of times it has a negative impact, and then you're kind of worse off than when you started. So it's like trying to get back to that spot, and that self-medicating attempt is...
Let me tell you one thing. It's interesting. Somebody with ADHD, for example, is treated by taking Ritalin or Adderall. It's a stimulant. So somebody with ADHD that has a hyper tendency or is very spacey, if they start doing a stimulant drug like cocaine or methamphetamine, it's almost going to be as if they got a doctor's prescription. Everything will become clear for them because the stimulant, of course, in the illegal drug is a lot greater than what you'd get in a doctor's office, but it's similar.
Right.
So when I worked at the jail in a substance abuse program there, I saw a lot of people that had ADHD who were doing methamphetamine because it made them feel good, not only just high, but it gave them a clarity that ADHD interfered with normally. And so then they ended up in jail, though, because methamphetamine is, it's pretty terrible what it does to you.
Right.
ADHD stands for?
attention deficit hyperactivity. I'm sorry, I didn't. Yeah, there's ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity, where somebody's very hyper, and that's usually associated with young kids. But then there's ADD, which people have. And you don't have that hyperactivity in physical form. You just have it in your brain, where you're always thinking, and you're going here and going there in your brain.
Have a hard time concentrating.
Have a hard time concentrating. So same thing. One is externalized, and the other is more internalized, and you're kind of spacey and you're dreamy and thinking about all these other things. Now that's
Shouldn't laugh. It's not funny, but some people have.
That's a hidden. That's a hidden difficulty that a lot of people have, ADHD, and it's a support group that we have at Mental Health America for families of kids with ADHD.
Specifically for families with kids that have ADHD. What other support groups do you have?
We have support groups for family members of mentally ill folks, and that's a huge thing. Because some family members feel guilty if their son or daughter is mentally ill. And they said, "What did I do wrong?"
Yeah, I have a close friend of mine from high school who has bipolar, and I can see that in her family. The parents' perceived guilt of
It's huge.
Yeah,
it's huge, and so we have ongoing support groups for that for the family members, so they can. Get more of a realization that they need to take care of themselves.
Right.
And I just talked about the genetic part, so it could be like a grandmother in the family that was mentally ill, and that gene can just get... So it's not... Parents didn't... I mean,
right.
In the past, people used to blame moms, for example. Moms get blamed for everything.
Right.
But we found that not to be true. Yeah. It's not like... although... I'm going to deviate here just for a second, because like substance abuse, if you have the predisposition in your genes and you don't use substances, you're okay, because you don't wake that up.
Yeah.
Same with mental illness. You might be predisposed to schizophrenia because a relative had it, and if you're an abuser of substances and hallucinogenic, like even marijuana, certainly LSD, that can trigger a psychotic break then that's with you for your whole life.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm not going to say that somebody predisposed to schizophrenia will not get schizophrenia even if they're drug free. Right. And schizophrenia usually overtakes people in their later teens and early adulthood. So you can have an A student going through school who just does really well, and then they have a psychotic break, and then they're ill for the rest of their lives. It's just one of those things that it's probably better not to use any kind of hallucinogenic drugs if you're at all concerned about mental illness in your family. And one thing I just want to say, as I sit here and think, what's appropriate for people listening maybe to this program, is the pain that mental illness causes people. And I just want to mention that it really is heart-wrenching for families to see their children lose all ability to have a normal life. And it's an illness.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's painful for the families, but it's really painful for the individual that's going through
Huge.
it as well. Yeah.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah.
And if anything, Mental Health America is a place where families can be understood and people with mental illness can be understood and not judged for their particular condition.
And that's a really important point, is the not being judged part, I think.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's
I guess as we talk here today, I'm thinking about, like, growing up. My family never talked about any illnesses, any family history of things, and
kind of just like swept under the rug.
We were like
show no weakness.
Yeah, we were the second generation to living in America, so we didn't know anything about the family back in Germany or wherever they came from. And it's like, that's an important discussion to have with your family.
It is. It is. I knew that I had an aunt that was in an institution years ago. That's all I knew.
Right.
Growing up, and I knew that some other relative had electroshock treatment. You know, some time
way
ago.
back when they did that.
Yeah. So people don't talk about it, and now. It's a good conversation to have. You know, all these people do genealogy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to find that out, because if you have any back, history of mental illness or substance use in your family, it's a good idea to look into that. What was it? And then just start taking care of yourself.
Right. It seems to me that it's so important to know that background, because then you can just be conscious as the symptoms start, and then, just be conscious of what your options are going forward. For my friend in high school, it was, we started noticing those symptoms late high school, even mid-high school, 10th, 11th grade. She wasn't diagnosed until she was 27, 28, and, then... Yeah, at that point, she was effectively getting the appropriate treatment. I think that really helped. There was that 10 years of time that was incredibly painful for her. She wasn't getting the appropriate treatment. She was getting treated for depression, not bipolar. And I'm assuming that the treatments are different.
Two entirely different medications.
Right.
If you get that wrong, the one medication exacerbates the condition.
Right.
Wow.
So when you're able to be knowledgeable about your family's history, you can cut off that, or shorten that kind of intense pain period a lot sooner, getting appropriate treatment. Or, I know it's still difficult no matter what kind of treatment you're getting, but
we have some good agencies here in Maui. Mental Health Kakua has actually group homes here in Maui that serve people with mental illness, because quite often people just can't live at home. Yeah. They're just too disruptive, and it's too difficult. And Aloha House has a program that treats both mental illness and substance abuse concurrently, which is an ideal way to treat it.
Right.
You can't. It's better to treat it in one agency, both illnesses, than to treat your mental illness in one agency and substance abuse in another. So we're lucky to have Aloha House. They're great.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, we're coming close to the end of the segment here, but I want to talk a little bit about this liveyourlifewell.org.
I'm glad you brought that up.
that you brought with you, because we've been talking about all the downside of things and that, and here's maybe how to help you stay on the right track, live healthy, live well. One was connect with others. Research suggests that people who feel connected are happier and healthier, and I think we all go along with that one totally.
Yeah.
Number 2, stay positive. People who regularly focus on the positive in their lives are less upset by painful memories. That's pretty obvious. 3, get physically active. Big one. 4, help others. Research suggests those who constantly help other people experience less depression, greater calm, and fewer pains.
And that kind of ties in with the first one. If you're helping others, you're staying connected with them.
Exactly. And 5, get enough rest. People
Yeah.
who don't get enough rest, sleep face a number of possible risks, including weight gain, decreased memory, impaired driving, and heart problems. Number 6, create joy and satisfaction. Positive emotions can boost your ability to bounce back from stress. We all know that as executive directors, don't we?
What stress is?
What stress is, and how to bounce back.
Yeah.
7 is eat well. Eating healthy food, regular meals can increase your energy, lower the risk of developing certain diseases, and influence your mood. Number 8, take care of your spirit. People who have strong spiritual lives may be healthier and live longer. Spirituality seems to cut the stress that can contribute to disease. 9, deal better with hard times. People who get support, problem solve, or focus on the positive in their lives are likely to handle tough times better. And number 10, get professional help if you need it. If the problems in your life are stopping you from functioning well or feeling good, professional help can make a big difference.
And there really is help out there.
So I think those are 10 great things, and you can find those on the web at www.liveyourlifewell.org. nonprofit.org.
That's correct. And I actually do a workshop seminar. I can take a program into an agency to staff members and go over these. I have a whole PowerPoint presentation. And I can be reached here in Maui at 242-6461. That's the Mental Health America office at the Cameron Center. It's my office. My name's Robert. 242-6461. And anybody with a mental health question, needing help with mental health services, or just don't know where to turn in this situation, give me a call.
And I think the important thing is to not wait and kind of try to self-analyze what's happening with somebody else or with yourself. Call now and say what's happening.
Actually, during the next week, October 7th through the 13th, is what's called Mental Health Awareness Week nationally. Next week is Mental Health Awareness Week nationally. And during that week, I'm making myself particularly available to meet people individually. For free, there's never a charge, Mental Health America. They can just call me, set up an appointment, 242-6461. I'll meet with you in my offices at the Cameron Center, free of charge whenever you care to do that. And we can discuss a family member, we can discuss whatever might be concerning you regarding substance abuse or mental health issues.
Yeah, and I think that's really important to know that, that's a safe place that people can come to, confidential, and, that really, you're not going to be judging anybody that comes to you for help. And if you have a question, if you're not sure, call and ask. It can't hurt to ask.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're not ashamed to ask for donations for our work. If somebody would like to support Mental Health America on Maui, just call me, and I'll be happy to tell you how to do that. 242-6461.
Thank you, Rob.
Absolutely. And thank you, Lindsay, for joining us today. Thank you both for joining us today. And thank you for our listeners for joining us today on Maui Nonprofit Notes. This show is sponsored as a community service by Pacific Source, the builder's choice. If you are building or remodeling your home, please stop by their showroom in the Waikapu Base Yard. The Maui Nonprofit Directors Association's mission is to provide personal and professional support to nonprofit executive directors, their organizations, and the community of Maui.
And as Max said, today we visited with the Alzheimer's Association's representative, Lindsay Capone, and with Mental Health America of Hawaii, Maui County Branch. Got to get that right. Robert Colasano. Thank you so much. We encourage everyone to get involved by giving, advocating, or volunteering for your favorite nonprofit. Do it today and give these people a call if your issues are what we've discussed in this past hour. Please visit our website at www.mauinonprofit.org for a list of member agencies. Mahalo for tuning in. Don't forget to join us again next week right here at KAOI, 1110 a.m. and 96.7 FM, when we'll be featuring representatives of 2 more member agencies of the Maui Nonprofit Directors Association. Until then, I'm Susie Tiemann.
And I'm Max Tornai.
Aloha, everyone. Have a great week.
Aloha.